Hi, Kate. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me on Terry's Courage Talks. I have been in touch with you for some time since the Women in Cloud Summit in Seattle. We met there and realized that we have a similar, somewhat of a story, and that we are promoting women to be their best.
Good morning. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to talk about what you're doing, your story, your new book, your nonprofit. I'm just going to go on and on and on. I've decided to let the audience know a little bit more about you right off the bat. Even though I'm going to include this in our interview, I just want to read some of your accomplishments because it's impressive, really impressive. And then we'll get into talking about how you've used courage in your own life, which I know you have. So Kate Eisler is the co-founder of the W Marketplace, an economic engine for women, as well as the co-founder of Be Bold Now, a nonprofit focused on accelerating gender parity. With over 20 years of international executive leadership experience gained working from Fortune 100 companies, Kate's journey of leadership, challenging the status quo, overcoming adversity, and breaking gender stereotypes, motivates and inspires. Her experience in high tech as a CEO of a digital health startup and as an executive at Microsoft, where she spent many years living and working overseas, provides a powerful platform of real world expertise and examples to draw from when addressing gender equality and balanced management practices. She shares her incredible story and insights in her new memoir, Breaking Borders, that just came out in March. And we'll tell you all about that and how to get a hold of her book. A mother to 3 float in the coop children, which I loved when I read that. She resides in Seattle, Washington with her husband. So I'm going to have you take it away from here and tell the audience a little bit about what you're doing now currently after all of that.
Well, I always, when that's read, and I just sort of think, really? Really? Has it been? But it's been fun and challenging. And so now I'm actually, I co-founded the W Marketplace as in direct response to the pandemic. Because I was hosting International Women's Day and in Seattle right before the lockdown happened.
Wow.
And then I started reading all about, what was happening to women and their economic situation. And I just couldn't take it. So I did what, any reasonable woman would do is drink a bunch of wine, have a breakdown and go, oh my gosh, what can I do? And so, my answer was everyone is online shopping. And I want to put money directly in women's pockets. And this seemed like the way to do it. And so the W Marketplace is a marketplace for women-owned businesses selling merchandise and personal services and professional services.
That's so exciting. When I went online, I couldn't believe that you had done that since we had talked last. I'm like, of course she did. Of course she took, an opportunity in something that's happening in our world and made something good come out of it. Of course you did. And so I love it. And I want to know more about how people can join and, what's the parameters and things like that, because I think it's such a great idea. And what else are you up to? I know you have a new book. Tell us, I want to talk about your book and some similar stories of what connected us when we met briefly almost a year and a half ago.
Yeah, unbelievable. So the marketplace has over 400 sellers right now and about almost 3,000 products. And it is very easy to join. And really what it is, it's a women-owned, or what we talk about as gender balanced, because there are so many women who work with their partners.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually partner with a different organization called Gender Fair, and there's like 10 questions that you answer to be approved to sell. And we're all about supporting that. So that's, really easy, and anyone can reach out to me and we'll put them probably in the notes on how to get me to join. So that's super easy.
Perfect.
And the book was kind of a crazy thing. It was something that I had never, it wasn't on my bucket list. And it just happened. As many, I'm sure you can relate, and lots of people listening, and I had a great career and then I didn't. things started to go wrong. And, some of that was the organization. I had grown differently, and some of it was me. And, I stayed in my position at Microsoft, which was a great job, but probably about 2 years too long because I felt I was, the sole breadwinner in my family, and I had kids in college, and I had responsibility. And I didn't, I saw change as being scary.
Mm.
So I waited too long. And so when I did leave, I was not in a great place, and my self-esteem was crazy. And, I was like, oh, this is all so challenging. And I started keeping a journal and writing things. And then, sort of a friend of a friend said, I know you have a story. So would you like to meet with an acquisition editor at HarperCollins? And I said, well, sure. And so writing the book, just happened. And what I found with writing it, it was such a good experience for me because as I wrote and then I would read this, things that I had written, I was like, maybe I'm not that bad.
Oh,
Maybe. And I think that so many women, you get into your headspace and where you are today.
yes.
And if it
Yes.
isn't great, and it really helped me to kind of look back and say, this is the person I've been and I really am. And these are my accomplishments. And maybe, I need to just really think through that versus feeling bad about myself right now.
I don't know why I'm laughing about this. It's amazing story. And writing, when I wrote my book too, I helped a lot of women see their own courage because it was from a survey on courage.
Mhm.
Exact same scenario where during writing the book and doing a TED talk, I shared some stories I was always ashamed of. But when I wrote the book and talked about my stories or did the TED talk, I realized that I was proud of them and that I had accomplished a lot of things. Instead of being ashamed, I felt like, oh wow, I was really strong.
Right.
Amazing. Isn't that interesting though? Don't you have you found that to be with all that a theme with women too?
I have. And I think, one of the things when I talk about my book and when I talk to people, first of all, I will never not talk to someone who wants to discuss or, learn or share. Because one of the things that I have gotten is that successful women, especially when they tell their stories or when they write their books, it always seems that they were in the right place at the right time. They got introduced to the right person. And that's the story we tell. That is not my story. And I think that it is really not authentic and it's not a lot of women's stories. And so by saying, here are the mistakes that I made professionally, here are the things that I did wrong, raising children in my relationship, all of these things. And I'm very transparent about it through the book.
Mm-hmm.
And, because we all have it. And it's part of why I did that very importantly, besides my journey, was to tell women it's okay to be honest and to make mistakes. It really depends on what you do with that.
Yes, it
Mhm.
doesn't define you. The mistake doesn't define you. It's how you handle the mistake or what you do after the mistake. No, I don't know if we call it a mistake or something that you would have rather done differently. So,
Right.
right. I agree with you 100% with that. And some people are a lot of women are stuck in what they didn't accomplish or they didn't do right or whatever that was. And it keeps them so stuck that they
Mhm.
can't get out of it and they can't see the opportunity past that.
Yeah, my career was not a trajectory up by any stretch. It was left, it was right. Sometimes it was backwards. And, and I always like to talk to people about, I didn't start out on the starting line with all the right equipment when I started to have the life and career I have. And I'm very transparent about that. I like to be really honest and say, I am a 2018 college graduate, like undergraduate the first time, 2018.
Congratulations.
Thank
First
you.
of all.
And I love the fact that people point out to me sometimes that my LinkedIn has a mistake, because it
Yes.
says, I publicly go, yep, I graduated in 2018. It took me, I'm going to go with 30 something years to finish college. I started before, but, and I had this career. I did not have the sort of upbringing that one would go, oh, yeah, you're going to be super successful. I spent the first 10 years of my life living in a hotel and not a Hyatt or Marriott more Holiday Inn motel.
Mhm,
And
mm.
so, no, I didn't have the network, the funds, the everything, but I had the desire. And I'm driven to, well, the real issue with me is I can't live with, I didn't try that.
Ah,
I can live with, I didn't do well at that, or I could have done this differently, but I can never live with, well, I didn't try.
you didn't try. And that's what catapulted you through the challenges or the obstacles or the perceived challenges and obstacles that were in your way, starting from, when you were young
Mhm. That's
and
it.
and not having your college degree. And then you had an executive position at Microsoft and you started your own company. So there's these amazing stories of, it's up to us if we want to try or we don't want to try.
Mhm.
And I have a very similar story as we've talked about. And, I always say, never disqualify yourself. Instead, say yes. And then try to figure it out. What do you need to do to get there? But that's an inner thing that I've always tried to understand what makes a person buckle and say, and give up versus people like you say, I have a little whisper inside of me that says, the worst thing I can do is not try.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I really do. And I try and encourage, every woman I talk to, no matter young, old, whatever, because I think that I'm still in that place.
Mm,
I have, people ask me, what would you tell your younger self?
yes.
And it's the same thing I tell myself today. And because I have the voice, as all of us do, in the back of our heads that says, who do you think you are? What are you doing? You're not
Of
qualified.
course.
And she talks to me every single day. And so I have to say, shh, keep it down.
Yeah.
I'm moving forward. But and I think you never outgrow that. So far, I've never outgrown that. And I've never gotten to the stage where I go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this. So I'm
Exactly.
not there yet.
Well, maybe the difference is you don't listen 100% to that voice, because the voices are there. I agree with you. And as a coach, I'd call them gremlins or shadows or something. We make them into this fictitious thing, but they are part of you. They're in there. It's a reel that goes on, and who knows where it came from, right? Society, right? As a woman, or
Mhm.
who knows? But the difference is listening to it versus listening to your inner strength, inner person that knows that that the possibilities are limitless if you try, like you said. And that
Mhm.
leads me to my first question for you in a new moment in time right now. I'm not going to assume what the answer will be, but do you see yourself as courageous, Kate?
Oh gosh, some days I would say absolutely. And some days I would say absolutely not. And so um, I do, but thoughtfully courageous, I would say, because I have to work up my courage a lot of times because
Mhm.
I look around sometimes in a room or where I am and think, again, who do you think you are? And it takes courage. And so I don't see myself as always being courageous or, that isn't a second nature thing to me. It's a very conscious thing to me.
Yes, that's an interesting description because I look at what you've done and it has courage to me written all over it. But I know you're being honest. Like your book is honest about, listen, I have days I am not courageous. I do question myself, and who am I to think I can do this, right? But that's being honest and real. But you still keep going. You still keep trying. Like, what is your definition of courage?
I'd say, it is not self-selecting out because as you pointed out, and I know we've shared,
Mhm.
I think so many women really assume they have not the right education, the network, the finances, and people depend on them
Yes.
because, that is what we think. And so I think it takes courage to even have the conversation with the closest people. To when I approached my husband and said, here's my dream and I'd like to follow it, and it has huge impact. on our lives. It means you quit your job and we take
Ah,
our toddler to the Middle East to work.
Kate, I have hair standing up on my arms right now. Just hearing that hit so, I'm speechless about that. That's amazing.
You know, and it was so not what people were doing. It was 25 years ago. It was not the norm, and we got a lot of, pushback from our families even.
Mhm.
But it was, I have a desire to do that, and it does take courage. I didn't have that every day, and there was certainly lots of times where I thought, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? I could have such an easy, comparatively easy life, but I'm just going to do it. And so I always tell women, if you want to do something, there's a way. And it may not be that you can accomplish it quickly or, sort of turn your life around. I think I'm an extreme. That was sort of an extreme reaction. But I also think it takes courage to take one step, and that step can be a giant step or a small step towards something. But gosh, do it. And, you know, find people who will support you in that, whether that be your friends, your family, your partner. Find those people and nurture those relationships with those people.
I love that. I really do agree with you 100%. So the message is, don't select yourself out because of all these reasons. Even if society supports those reasons,
Mhm.
keep moving forward towards your dreams, towards your goals, towards your passions. And that story that you just told me about talking to your husband, you have a toddler, and it's like I felt like you connected to something deep inside of you that is, it's almost a part of who you are, to make a difference in the world. And that to me is one of the most courageous acts there is to step into being and living your full potential and the things that are most important to you. And a lot of times people in society do not support that because they're not doing it themselves. And you need to surround yourself with people who believe in you and say, why not? Why not? Why not try?
That's it.
Yeah. And it's like, if you don't try, it's 100% certain you will not succeed.
And that is the key. It is, you may stumble and you may find different avenues or different things. And the other thing I say a lot in the book, and throughout the book I have sort of summarized the lessons that I learned end of each chapter, because I think that's, it's not a study guide, it's a story, it's a memoir, it's a story.
Yes.
But one of the things that I also learned that is so important is, when we set our sights on things as women, and I'm generalizing, I get, we go for that. And then if things don't work out, we are afraid to change our minds, afraid to make a different decision. Gosh, this isn't what I thought. And so, and I am living proof of, oh my gosh, I was afraid to make a decision to change, to leave my job at Microsoft because I had all these people depending on me and I thought that's what I should be. And this is where I am in my career. And then I just had to say, stop. You can make a different decision. And I've learned that. And I work through that regularly now. It's like, you can be on a path and people around you are supportive and wonderful. And then you go, oh, this isn't really the path I should be on.
Yes. And it's not a failure.
It's not a failure.
It's a sign of intelligence.
Right. It's like, I want to change jobs. I want to go a different direction. I know I was passionate about this, but it's led me to something else.
Yes.
That's okay.
I love this lesson that you learned. It's a really important one. We're so afraid to look bad or feel like we're possibly could fail or what, I think as women, we put so much pressure on ourselves that, we're supposed to be everything to everybody. And if we're given an opportunity, we need to go for it because women aren't given as much opportunity. Who knows what is going on in our heads, even unconsciously.
Yeah. And I think we as women need to talk about that very openly. I think we need to support one another because there is a huge history and institutional habits of creating scarcity for our decisions and
Ah,
our jobs and what we can accomplish. And the only way that changes is if we work together because the pie is big. We are half the population.
we are. We are. Good point. Really
You
good
know,
point.
yeah, we think, oh my gosh, if there's two women on the team, they don't need more. If there's, like me with my startup, women get 2% of the funding. So I'm up against all the, it's like, well, what if we got 10%? What if we all work together to, change the equation? And what if we represented half of the people in the company, not a third, or half
Oh,
of the leaders? So I'm crazy optimistic, but I'm determined. Ooh, I'm very determined.
I love your determination more than you know, and you are making an impact. And I'm taking away from our conversation today so many things about the importance of supporting each other, the importance of saying I can, and getting people to support your dreams, not giving up, take one step at a time, even if it's a small step, and don't select yourself out, right? Whatever the saying was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't look out.
and that because we do that all the time. Like, you said you even have that conversation in your head and you don't listen to it all. You try not to listen to it. So the audience right now, I think you're going to take away a lot. How can they get a hold of your book, and how can they get a hold of all the other things you're doing, the Be Bold Now and the W Marketplace?
So my book is available on the wmarketplace.com, and I would love to have it purchased there because it's available on the other large e-commerce platform. But I also want it to be a conscious purchase, if possible, to say men own every social media platform, most e-commerce platforms, and all ad platforms. So think about this, ladies and audience. If you want to support women, you should shop women. And so, that is just one more thing that I sell it because it's a published book, and my publisher sells it across lots of platforms. But I really try hard to say, I would love for it to be purchased on the W Marketplace.
Okay, done.
Yeah.
Audience
So
out there, all ladies, that's where you're going.
that's it. And the Be Bold Now is actually an organization that supports International Women's Day because we want to raise awareness on where we are to gender equity. And we think oftentimes in this country that we're much farther along than we are. And we are not as far towards economic equity, political equity, access to healthcare and longevity, and education as we should be. And so we use the World Economic Forum and we talk about that. And the Be Bold is an event to celebrate women. It is not a training. It is really, we highlight what women are doing that are amazing. And that event is in person in Seattle, but it's also, thanks to this year, we have started to broadcast it. And so outtakes of that are on YouTube on Be Bold Now, the channel.
Wonderful.
And absolutely available. And we will have it March. I believe we're a week ahead of International Women's Day this year. So March 2nd, 2022.
Great. So they can go to your website as well, right?
Absolutely.
And find all this information, which your website is?
My website, the one that'll have it all is the wmarketplace.com.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
And yeah, they can find out everything about me and those other, the other properties, and buy the book. And shop women owned. You have women merchants and services that need your support.
So exciting. I'm going to go there today and find out what's there. I've been there one time, but I wanted to take my time. So everybody go to the wmarketplace.com.
Right.
Okay. And find out more about what Kate's up to and all these different organizations and opportunities to make a difference. And thank you, Kate, from the bottom of my heart, for being such a shining light for all of us and being an example of truth and making a difference. I loved our conversation today, and I look forward to having another one soon.
Thank you.
Okay, and congratulations on your book, and I hope it's very successful, and I know it will be.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.